Boston College's passing attack just gave us reason for optimism.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Thank you for joining us on today's show. We're going to talk about the scrimmage. What was concerning? What looked good? The defense, they were flying around. What kind of overall impressions did they leave us in the passing game? I think everyone's biggest question, how did it look? We're going to get into it on today's show. All right, on Saturday, in a weather that felt very fall, BC held their second scrimmage of the fall in front of some season ticket holders and other fans that were there and the media. And I had to preface this that I missed the last 20 to 30 minutes of the scrimmage, but I was there for most of it. So I want to give you my thoughts and some of the thoughts I got from Mike Sidley, who did catch that last 20 minutes. And when I was watching, one of my big focuses was going to be the passing game. Last scrimmage number 1, was focused mostly on the run game. So you left not understanding completely how the passing game would look. And you wanted to see more out of Mason McKenzie and Grayson Wilson and Femi Babalola. You got that on Saturday because they definitely pushed more for the passing game on Saturday. And I have to say, I was pretty impressed. I liked what I saw. Now, to say this is important too, we said it on when Mike Sidley was on the show with me from practice on Thursday. They're in the midst of a really long stretch of practices in a row. They're also working to prevent injuries from happening. They don't want guys getting banged up like they did last year and then lingering into the season with those injuries. So there was a number of guys that were taking days off, and I can't get into the names of the guys that weren't there. Just that's part of my credentials. But some key names were not there. We'll just leave it at that. All right. So Mason McKenzie, when he's throwing, I think he's got a pretty solid arm. Is it the best I've ever seen? No. Is it bad, like some people think it is? No. He's got a pretty good arm. He can get the ball out quick. He can get some mustard behind it, and he can get it deep. So those all hit the marks of what you're looking for. Now, what I also wanted to see was accuracy, ability to make some reads out there. And I thought he did a pretty good job. We'll get into some concerns later that has to do with the passing game. But in terms of what Mason McKenzie did, I liked it. Now, I think other folks wanted to know as well with the passing game, how did the offensive line look? They're still trying to figure things out with that offensive line, who's going to go where. I think if you read, I think it was Kevin Stone put it out that he got sacked 17 times. I have no idea where that number came from. I saw him get sacked a couple times and it was all just hand touches, but I don't think that passing blocking was as bad as that made it out to be because he was not running for his life. And I think some of those sacks that we heard about were the scout team because we saw a lot of Femi Babalola and, Grayson Wilson and the guys in the backups with kids that are just getting to campus. If some of the freshmen are letting up sacks, that doesn't make a difference for what's going to happen with Mason McKenzie. That's a completely different story. And there were times where the backups would be going against like your lead defense. So all of that, you had to have some context to it. When Mason McKenzie's out there, that's really what I cared about because we already know he's QB1. He's going to be the starter. Bill has said that a million times already. And I did not feel like got hit much at all. And like hit in scrimmages. They're doing a good job of not laying into guys. But also escaping. That's the big key. That's something that Bill has talked about that I think is going to be critical in why they wanted Mason McKenzie this year. How many times last year did Dylan Larnagin go back to pass? The receivers couldn't get open and the play was dead. He'd have to either kind of scramble a little bit and throw it away or he'd get sacked. It happened all the time. And Grayson James was better, but realistically, like when he scrambled, he wasn't that fast. So he could get a yard or two. And it was never consistently a lot. What you got with Mason McKenzie is very different because there were times out there, he's playing with guys like Nedrick Bolden and VJ Wilkins and, DJ Biggins at times. Like there were different guys out there than you would expect. Guys weren't getting open and he would just take off. And when he takes off, like he's fast. And I think that was important to see too. So he hit some passes. Grayson Wilson probably had the pass. I think he was the one that threw the 70-yard pass to VJ Wilkins. But it was Mason McKenzie who, was able to kind of orchestrate this offense and use his arm. He hit a pass to Evan Dickens at one point. We saw him going towards guys like Brady Clogue and those wide receivers. I didn't feel like, you may not know some of those guys. That's okay. I don't think any of those passes were bad. Like there weren't passes that you were like, where is he going with this ball? Or, ooh, he missed bad on that. I think maybe was one that I saw him miss bad. But other than that, like he's pretty consistent out there and he doesn't make a lot of dumb mistakes. He had that interception earlier this week, but it's practice. It happens to all of them, right? I think Drake may have like 2 interceptions, just this week, one of these practices this week too. So like even the good ones, they have those mistakes. I like what I'm starting to see the vision of what Mason McKenzie can do. And that's a quarterback that can throw the ball, that can make reads, can also run the ball. And when he runs the ball, he's going to be one of the fastest quarterbacks, I think, in the ACC. Like he is really quick. There was a play where he went back to pass, no one was open, and he quickly turned on the jets, took it outside and he was gone. There was nobody even near him. He would have ran for 60 yards if he had the chance. That's what you get with Mason McKenzie. I think that's a good thing to see. And I think the question comes back to the quarterbacks. I like what you have with Grayson Wilson too. In terms of a more traditional passer, he's mobile enough, but he's got a nice arm. That kid has a nice arm. And he makes some good throws out there. Femi, he's got the biggest ceiling out of all of them, but man, he's still a freshman. And I think some folks might read stuff and go, oh, Femi Babalola is going to be, quarterbacking by the end of this year. Maybe if he continues to pick things up, but he's a kid. He's still making lots of mistakes out there. But man, when he gets the chance to throw it, this kid is a cannon for an arm. And B, he's 6'5", 220 or 230 at this point. He's enormous. He's going to be a bear and he can run. He can run like Mason McKenzie can run. Mason McKenzie, 6 feet tall, add 5 inches and 40 pounds onto him. And that's what you get with Femi Babalola. He's big, but pump the brakes on him for this year because I really do think he's going to take some time. And if anything were to happen to McKenzie, I do think Grayson Wilson would probably be the safer choice because he can still manage that offense. But I liked what I saw from the passing attack. I thought it was pretty solid. And again, there were some major names that were not out. And again, it's for load management for all of those folks out there that are worried about injuries. It's to prevent those injuries because so many guys went into last season banged up because of the rigors of practice that Bill and Craig Fitzgerald and his staff are working very methodically to work certain amount of snaps and to load manage these guys so that they are fresh when they need to. And some guys out there have been around for a while. It's okay to have them sit out a little bit too. So I think that's an important factor to put into all of this. There was a number of guys, and they're not hurt. It's those days off so that they can do that. Now in our second segment, I am falling in love with this defense, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations know that success isn't about talent, it's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true in sports just as it is in business. I look at the BC basketball team. They've got a nice killer staff with Luke Murray at the head, but even we just heard this week that they have 5 new staff members. They are all on the same vision, and you can already start to see the impact and how the level of output is improving every day for BC basketball. That's because they all have the same goal. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/locked on. That's odoo.com/locked on. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider. Thank you all who have been listening. And if you're just jumping back in, you're getting ready for this 2026 season. I have been talking about BC football for the last 8 months, getting ready for our season because it's been crazy with the portal, with recruiting, with new coaches. I have it all. And all you have to do is go into your favorite app for podcasts or YouTube, and they're all right there for you. Just find one that you're interested in learning a little bit more on. Boom, hit that button, you're good to go. Now, the defense. I think the defense for BC, a lot of folks going into this summer camp were worried about Ted Roof. They thought this was not going to be a good fit, that, this is a coach that has struggled in a lot of different spots. But I've said before, and I said it with Mitch Wolf a couple of weeks ago when we were recording live from Fish, Roof seems like a good fit for BC right now. This is a vocal coach who seems to be getting a lot out of his players, and we saw more of that. KP Price had another interception. KP is going to be a star, and he's looking like a star out there. But you see more and more from certain players that you're saying, okay, they got something here. The big one, Onye Nwosisi. Again, Onye Nwosisi was a transfer from Valpo 2 years ago. Played 3 games, redshirted the rest of the season, came back as a completely different character. He right now, I would say he's the best pass rusher BC has, even over Chris Jones. He's everywhere, and he caused a lot of problems for opposing offenses on Saturday. Like, he just the way he is built, he's, I think, 6'4", 240 pounds. He's built. He's chiseled now. He looks like an ACC edge rusher, and he played like one, like just everywhere. And Chris Jones, and that's not to take anything away from Chris Jones because he looked good too. But I think Nwosisi is going to be this big matchup problem, and I'm really excited to see where that goes. Additionally, Demetrius Ballard, there's a name you haven't heard much from, because I believe Bill said he was out for a bit. He's back, and he had a good practice. There's your third or fourth edge rusher, along with like Ela Boykin. And I love the way that they kind of, push the opposing offense around. Now, is that an issue with the offensive line? It's hard to tell. I didn't see offensive linemen tripping all over themselves or, them getting chewed out for doing the wrong thing. I think it's just talent on that defensive line. And I think they're in a spot where Ted Roof is maximizing what he has there. Because additionally, there's been players that have been popping that I think, we don't talk about that we should be. And they showed up more on defense again on Saturday. At the linebacker position, we saw a bit of Justin Medlock and Zachary Thomas getting significant snaps. And I love the way that they were using them, because Medlock is not a huge linebacker. This is the transfer from SMU. He looks like, and I think this was his thing when he got here, was that this is a linebacker that you can kind of push, like on passing downs, push back into coverage if you need to. He's got that size that is like that almost linebacker safety tweener. That's good because you've got some thumpers like Anthony Polano and Bodie Cahoon are bigger linebackers. Medlock was everywhere. Zachary Thomas, again, a name I don't talk a lot about here. I love the way that Roof was using him. And he was after the quarterback. He's quick. This is a linebacker that looks about ready to to play a role for them. Last year, when you looked at your depth chart of what you had at linebacker, you had at the beginning of the year, before everything fell apart, you had Davion Crouch, who you were expecting a big year out of, and that was a big disappointment. You had Owen McGowan, who you just love, but you knew he was kind of limited in what he could do athletically. And then you just had a whole bunch of question marks. Like, I love him, but Bryce Steele, like, this is a guy coming back from cancer. Like, he was going to have to play a role. You had like freshmen, you had guys that never really played, like Kamori Dixon and LaFollette. Like, you didn't have that. Now you've got Griffin Collins, who's played a little bit, Dixon, if you need him, Zachary Thomas, Medlock. Like, the linebacker depth is much better than it was last year. And I think the talent, I think after we were disappointed with what Crouch could do, I think Polano is going to be everything that Crouch was supposed to be. And I think Bodie Cahoon will be a nice more athletic linebacker aside him, so that they're going to have two decent linebackers. Then you step back and you look at the secondary. And that's where I think the most talent is. And we've talked at length about Marcus Upton and KP Price and Carter Davis. There's other names out there. Ashton Cunningham, for instance. This kid is 5'10", the fastest guy on the team, according to some people we've talked to. But he is like glue sometimes on those receivers. He had another big pass. I think it was a breakup in this game where he just was everywhere. And that is great because, they're still working Max Tucker back after that the injury. You're seeing a little bit out of Cam Martinez out there. But it's some of the other names in the secondary that I think is worth talking about. Ray Sykes, let me tell you about him. I think he's number 11. This is a red sophomore, because I think he played special teams last year, from Georgia, Rome, Georgia, I believe it is. Not a name you had heard of much at all. He's a safety. This is a guy that should be a name that's getting ready for, when KP Price leaves. He's getting there. Cam Howard, the transfer from Alabama, kind of the same thing. Like, you've got some guys back there. Sykes makes plays all the time. The other name is a cornerback is a name that we don't bring up at all, and that's Marcus Upton. Not Marcus Upton, excuse me. I've talked about him a lot. Najita Sankala. This is the kid I think it's from Connecticut. And, he kind of got buried with, the Cunninghams and the Marcellus Townsends and Marcus Uptons and TJ Greens. He's had a good camp. He's going to be a solid depth player this year that's probably going to be either play some significant snaps. I could see it happening, or be ready for next year when, a couple of these guys might be retired, onto the college, out of the college levels or whatever. The depth is good. I like the depth of the defensive back position. Now, the biggest question I think right now in terms of the defense might be up the middle. KJ Sampson, Micah Amedi, CJ Marable, Christian Hudson. They've got a couple guys. For me, that group specifically, like, they haven't been killed yet, but like, when you see the running backs constantly getting big yards up the middle, it could be one or two things. The offensive line's just that good, or there might be concerns with how that defensive tackle position and they're playing at the middle. To me, it's something worth watching. I don't know. I can't tell what's going on there. They make plays. We've seen Amedi make plays and KJ Sampson make plays. I just don't know what their ceiling is going to be. And Saturday didn't do anything to fix that for me either. So that's how the defense looks. Special teams, Bryce LaFollette is going to be a heck of a punter. And we saw a lot of John Hewitt on Saturday. And, for a true freshman, he had a couple good field goals, missed a few. It was up and down for him. And Cam Martinez, we've seen a lot in special teams too. So I know a lot of folks have been asking about him. This kid from Ohio State, he's been around since the Halfley years. I think he missed most of last year, but he's back. He was doing a lot of, returns, and I think he'll be fine. Now, in our final segment, overall, what did I leave feeling concerned about and what looked good? I'll get into that in just a moment. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day through the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another way to stay engaged with everyday's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before the first pitch. Now, I've been really going, like loving what the Red Sox have been doing. When I go on FanDuel, you could do your daily dinger. So, when I win, I could add that to a parlay I've made on the Red Sox. Usually it's like a home run by Wilson Contreras, maybe 6 strikeouts for Sonny Gray, and the Red Sox to win by two runs. Easy enough. And when you hit, it is great. That's fanduel.com where you can join all the action. So if you're ready to play your game today, join all that action at fanduel.com. That's fanduel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Thank you all who have made us part of your daily routine, whether you're listening or watching us. And check out Locked On ACC with Julian Council and Kenton Gibbs. I did a whole preview of BC on their show. There's a whole segment on me coming up, I think soon. It should be dropping soon. So check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, leaving the scrimmage, how did I feel? What were some of my concerns and what looks good? Let's go with the negative first. What are things that are concerning me? Right now, the wide receivers. Okay. It seems like a cliche that sometimes you feel worried that the wide receivers are behind. And yeah, sometimes they are. But what I saw a lot on Thursday and on Saturday was just inconsistent play and stuff that needs to be cleaned up before I can feel good about how they're playing. We saw drops. There was one play where a wide receiver, I think it was BJ Wilkins, was wide open. Ball came right, hit him right in the chest. He dropped it. We saw something similar like that on Thursday with another wide receiver. Like that kind of stuff just needs to get better. But it's also things like separation from cornerbacks. Like it's just not there. Again, there were a number of guys that were not practicing, but the ones that were there didn't inspire me a lot that's the level that they need to get at. So that's one piece. The tight ends is another, because I know in Bill O'Brien's offenses, the tight ends have for the last couple of years been so crucial, whether it's Jeremiah Franklin or Kamari Morales or Kalen Jasinski. They've got tight ends that can catch. Zeke Moore has been making some plays out there, but he's not the kind of wide receiver that you had with Franklin or you had with Jasinski. He's more of a short kind of game, and like they need to move the ball further, and that's what Chud could do. I haven't seen that yet with the tight ends, because I think Zeke is going to be the kind of guy that's going to catch like a 3 or 4 yard and then try to barrel for a couple yards. I love to see tight ends that get 17, 20 yards on a catch sometimes, because that can help keep that offense moving. Haven't seen that part yet. That's my big concern there. In terms of the offensive line, I don't have major concerns there. Again, I need to see more out of it, but when they're out there, they're okay. My biggest concern with the defense, I think that the up the middle type of stuff, I want to make sure that that's the offensive line playing really well and not the defensive line struggling, because I think that would be an issue. That's my big concern there. What I really like so far has been the running game. I think the running game was fantastic. The run blocking has been really good, as I mentioned before. Guys like Judah Pruitt, Christian Phillips, they've looked really good, and Michael Krauts, they've all looked really good blocking for some of those guys. But on Saturday, we saw a lot of Bo McCormick, and this is the third running back. You're seeing different practices. I've seen different practices with Nolan Ray staying out, a bunch with Evan Dickens, but this was really like a Bo McCormick type game. Like he's a tough guy to tackle now. Like last year I saw him and he's tough, but a good ACC, defensive back can take him out. He's a lot harder now. He's just so much more built and ready to go. Love that. The pass rush, again, I thought that looked great. And in special teams, like all of those really kind of look good to me. So at the end of the day, does this change anything about how I view this team? Not yet. It does feel good to know that it feels like Mason McKenzie is close to getting there. They only have one more week, and then it's prep week for the Cincinnati game. But I felt watching this that they are developing. right? And there's still lots of things to clean up. That's what any football coach would say. Like, no football coach is going to stay at practice and say, this is great, we're just going to keep going. There's stuff they're going to clean up. And, I think that's a good sign. Going back to the passing game, like cleaning things up, I think it was last year. It might have been Lauren again. And it definitely was when I was watching Castellanos 2 years ago. You would leave scrimmages and go, whew, he made quite a few mistakes out there. I don't feel that way with Mason. I saw, like Larnigan would throw a pass and you're like, ooh, you shouldn't have thrown that. Or Castellanos constantly had mistakes that you're like, what was he seeing? I don't see a ton of that with Mason McKenzie. So that's a really good sign. But I think the program is heading the direction that they want to. Whether this is going to work or not, we'll have to wait to see how they look against the Bearcats. But right now, you got your defense going in the right direction. You're starting to see the passing game really start to pick up, and your run game has been excellent. So that's all you can ask for at this point. I feel like it's not causing more concern. It's definitely feeling like things might be going in the right way. On tomorrow's show, continuing our discussion of BC football as we're only less than 2 weeks away from the start of the season. Cannot wait to get that going. We'll have all of that and so much more in tomorrow's show. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok, and on Threads. You can see me all on all of those. Make sure you come over to Eagle Insider as well. Right now, there's a great deal for 60% off. You get all sorts of insider info on Boston College, whether it's recruiting, basketball, football, hockey, everything in between. We have it all there. Come check us out. I think you'll enjoy that. And we'll see you all again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.